I was pouring my morning coffee when my phone lit up with a notification. A video popped up from Mrs. Smith, the nosy neighbor from my childhood street. I hadn't heard her name in over a decade. Seeing her name flash on my screen yanked open a door I thought I'd slammed shut forever. The message was cryptic and brief, no intro, just, "I'm so sorry about what your parents did. I never imagined they'd go this far." My stomach dropped like I'd been punched. I tapped the play icon, half afraid of what I'd see. It was the inside of a church I hadn't seen since I was a kid. St. Albans, the Leo church my parents dragged me to every Christmas Eve, like clockwork. The camera panned toward the altar, revealing two familiar figures at the pulpit. My parents. My mother was draped in black lace, pearls gleaming, eyes suspiciously dry behind a tissue. My father stood beside her, rigid and robotic, reciting from a folded page like it was a script. Behind them, a coffin draped in white lilies, and beside the coffin, a framed photo of me, surrounded by flowers. I stopped breathing. No way. My dad's voice, flat and rehearsed, came through the speaker. "She struggled, but we tried. We loved her, in our own way," he said, voice void of any real sorrow. My vision swam. He was giving a eulogy. For me, "We pray she finds the peace she never could in life." What the hell? I was alive, standing in my kitchen, phone in hand, pulse racing, alive. This had to be a nightmare. I rewound it, watched again and again. Their faces stayed frozen in polite grief. Their voices never cracked. They were calm. They were performing. I clutched the countertop, my knuckles white from the pressure. My fingers shook uncontrollably, twitching like they had a mind of their own. "What is this?" I muttered, my voice barely louder than a breath. Why would they do something like this? I hadn't heard their voices in years, not since they severed me from the family tree like a diseased branch. But a funeral? A full-blown memorial service? To kill me off? On paper? In public? The more I watched, the deeper the chill crept into my bones. My mother spoke of some fabricated accident, her tone flawless, no crash, no tragedy. My father droned on about my final years in seclusion. I was paying rent, holding down a job, waking up every day like anyone else. They knew I was out here, alive. There's no way they didn't. So why go this far? Why erase me from the world like I never existed? I collapsed onto the floor, still clutching my phone like it could explain something. The video ended on the crowd. Distant cousins I barely knew, family friends, even my old piano teacher, Mrs. Holbrook, dabbing her eyes. All there, dressed in black, each of them believing the lie. They buried me without a coffin, just words, and no one called to check. Not a single call, not even a damn email. I watched it one more time, desperate for a glitch, an edit, anything that proved it was fake. But there it was, the truth, sharp as broken glass. They didn't just forget me, they buried me alive and made everyone clap for it, and it hit me. This wasn't an accident, it was deliberate, planned, but it hadn't always been this way. Once I believed family meant safety, that home was where love lived. That illusion shattered 3 years ago, the day they kicked me out and pretended I'd never existed. Want the truth? Here it is. I didn't steal the money, not a dime of it. It was Sienna, my golden little sister with the perfect smile and rotting morals, the untouchable princess, the pride of our family. She could burn down the house and they'd blame the matches. She funneled close to 80 grand out of our family business and into her closet, her trips, her lies. She lived like royalty on a peasant's budget, always one lie away from collapse. When the books screamed fraud and someone had to bleed, they didn't look far. I was the easiest target. Quiet, independent, disposable. I still hear her voice, cold and sharp, echoing through that tiled kitchen. "Better you go down than us losing her too," she whispered, like it was mercy. My father didn't flinch, didn't blink, just turned away. "You've brought shame to this family. We're done with you." By sunrise, I had packed and vanished. No money, no defense, no goodbye, just a void where my family used to be. I reached out, calls, texts, letters. I begged for truth, for justice, for someone to believe me. Silence louder than any scream. They erased me digitally and emotionally. Family friends stopped replying, one by one. Doors I'd walked through since childhood now stayed locked. I was dead to them long before the fake funeral. Not just to them, to every name, every face I thought I could trust. Eventually, I disappeared. Like all unwanted things do, I left. I moved to a foreign city, took a cafe job, erased myself from the internet, and spoke my name only when required. My face vanished from the feeds. My name felt foreign in my own mouth, but some pathetic part of me held onto a sliver of hope. Hope that one day a voice would say, "We were wrong." That call never came, but instead of silence, I got something far worse. Last year, I tried logging into an old email. Just out of curiosity, the system locked me out. Tech support told me it was deactivated, cause of closure, reported death. In their records, I didn't exist anymore. I had died, officially, digitally, irrevocably. They didn't just cast me out, they scrubbed me from reality. That night, sleep was a stranger. The video looped endlessly in my head, a sick melody I couldn't turn off. Their voices, so practiced, so false. Crocodile tears for a daughter they buried alive. My face framed beside a coffin I never lay in. A funeral for a body that was never dead. None of it made sense, so I did what anyone with a pulse and a grudge would do. I dug. First call. Aunt Miriam, Mom's older sister, the one who always smelled like peppermint and rebellion. We hadn't spoken in ages, but she was once the one to slip me candy under the table during long dinners. She picked up fast. Second ring. "Hello," she said, cautious but not unfriendly. "It's me, Aunt Miriam, Jade." My voice trembled with hope. Silence. A long, loaded silence. Then a click. She hung up. I called again, straight to voicemail. Then came the text. "Number blocked." I tried my cousins, one by one. One replied with a thumbs up emoji, then ghosted. Another said, "If this is a prank, it's not funny." Not one of them believed I was alive, except Leo, my youngest cousin, Leo, the only soul who remembered me as more than a rumor. He used to follow me around like a puppy, wide-eyed and loyal. His reply came slow, cautious, like he didn't believe his own eyes. "Jade, this isn't a joke?" "Yeah, I'm alive. I need answers. What story did they spin?" The typing dots blinked forever. Then finally, "They told everyone you died in a crash abroad, said it was quick." My gut twisted. They even had details. Vacation gone wrong, couldn't recover your body, cremation done abroad, funeral happened fast. My phone slipped in my hands. There was no crash, no wreck, no headline. I didn't even own a damn car. Something in me cracked. I dug through every document I had, passport stamps, lease agreements, border records. Not a single record of a hospital visit, no police reports. I was never missing, just gone in their story. So I went digging into official databases, and there it was, staring back at me like a death sentence. Jade Halstead, declared dead. Date of death, July 16th. Cause, fatal car crash. Status, deceased. Certificate number, ARF 93127. They faked it all. They killed me on paper. I sat there, paralyzed. This wasn't mourning. It wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a cover-up. intentional. But what secret was worth faking my death? I should have stopped there, but once your family stages your funeral, you don't walk away. You dig deeper. The answer was waiting in plain sight. Sienna's Instagram. She'd made her account public again, and then it hit me, dead center, no warning. A carousel of carefully curated lies, dressed in glitter, white roses, pristine, pure, deceiving, champagne flowing like guiltless celebration, a rock so massive it mocked everything I'd lost, Sienna's wedding, my funeral's encore. The entire clan showed up, like nothing ever happened. Aunt Miriam, beaming like she hadn't buried me with silence. Cousins laughing, toasting, celebrating a lie. Even reclusive Uncle Bernard, who dodges funerals, was there. Except the one ghost they'd written out. Me. Not a whisper, not a name, not even a fake caption to pretend I mattered. I wasn't missing. I was deleted, like I'd never drawn breath, until the devil showed itself in pixels. One frame caught it, mid-toast, full betrayal. Her husband, grinning like he married royalty. Next to him, my father raising a glass, the caption stabbed, "To the only daughter who ever made us proud." And there it was, the replacement, the final erasure, not forgotten, rewritten, erased and overwritten. My hands shaking, I logged into the business registry, just a few keystrokes, and my blood froze. My future siphoned into her account. 6 months after they staged my death, on paper, with signatures, no noise, just clean betrayal. She didn't cry for me. She cashed me in. She wore white while spending my future. Her smile beamed like a victory parade over my grave, and it slammed into me like a freight train. She didn't just erase me. She upgraded her life with my ashes. She deleted me from the world like I was a typo. I was done playing dead. If they killed me on paper, I'd resurrect myself in court. The next morning, I marched into a law office like it was a battlefield. Stamps that proved I existed when they said I didn't. Signed, sealed proof I wasn't 6 feet under. The IRS knew I was alive, even if my family didn't. Every lease was another nail in the coffin of their lie. Plane tickets that placed me in cafes. Not coffins. Undeniable undead. They buried me alive. I was about to dig up the truth, and I would make them remember it. "Wait, you're contesting your own death?" the lawyer asked, eyes wide. "I'm very much alive," I said, "and I'm about to become their worst nightmare. We start with fraud, then perjury, then identity theft. It'll be slow," he warned, "but justice usually is. And I intend to RSVP in person," I said coldly, just one line, just enough. But I knew the place, and I'd be there, dressed in truth. It was real, and this time so was my vengeance. I stood at the window, watching the city pulse like a live wire, ready to catch fire. They wrote my eulogy in ink and lies, sealed my coffin with silence. But tonight, the dead walks in. Now I had a spotlight. Let them cry crocodile tears. Let them mourn the ghosts they murdered. Let them act like I was the tragedy. But when the curtain rises, I'll give them a resurrection they'll never forget. St. Alban looked like the Vatican on Easter Sunday, overflowing with sinners in black. The street was packed. BMWs, Audis, all the grieving elite. The church doors yawned open, swallowing people who wore black like a badge of sainthood. I stood across the street, cloaked in shadow and fury. Long coat, shades, anonymous among the living. It was like watching a Broadway tragedy, except I was the ghost in the wings. Inside, Act 1 had started. The organ sobbed out some mournful hymn. Candles flickered beneath a photo of a woman they tried to erase. That photo was taken on the last day I believed they loved me. My father, stone-faced, Bible in hand, delivered lies with the calm of a preacher. She was troubled, he said, like he wasn't the one who lit the match. My mother dabbed her dry eyes with lace, a tearless performance worthy of an Oscar. Then came Sienna, pearls on her neck, poison on her tongue. Jade was complicated, she said, voice trembling like a violin string. Beautiful, false. I wish I'd had the chance to say goodbye, Sienna whispered, her voice a dagger dressed in silk. A lie, gift wrapped in guilt, presented to a room full of believers. I inched forward, breath shallow, heart hammering against ribs that remembered betrayal, just close enough to catch the priest's final words. The priest lifted his hand like he was sealing my fate with a blessing I never asked for. May she rest in peace, he said, as if I were already in the ground. I let the air leave my lungs. Slow, steady, final. Not yet. This ghost still had something to say. The play was still running. They just didn't know the lead had returned. The corpse had just walked in. Let us rise for a moment of silence, the priest announced, not knowing silence was about to end. His voice echoed like the curtain call of a play that had one last act. Chairs creaked, shoes shuffled, 100 heads bowed, eyes shut tight like they were praying I wouldn't come back, hands clasped in mock reverence, blind to the lie they were living. And in that breathless, brittle silence, I pushed open the doors like I was breaking out of a grave. The sound cracked like thunder, unmistakable, undeniable. The oak doors groaned open like the earth splitting for Judgment Day. The outside light sliced through the room like a blade of truth. And I walked in, slow as a verdict, heavy as justice. My heels clicked against marble like hammers striking nails into their lies. Click, click, judgment. The silence shattered like stained glass. Gasps like gunfire. Heads turned one by one, dominoes of disbelief. Whispers rose like smoke from a fire they thought was buried. Is that her? She's dead. It's a ghost. And then a child's voice broke the spell like a scream in a nightmare. Mom, isn't that the dead lady? I pulled off my sunglasses slowly, like peeling away the last piece of their fantasy. Every eye in the room snapped to me, wide, disbelieving, full of dread. My mother's face drained of color. Her hands flew to her chest. Then she collapsed like a felled tree. It was the kind of dramatic faint you'd see on stage. Not grief, but guilt performed. My father froze, jaw slack, the wine glass slipping like truth escaping his grip. It smashed on the marble like a gunshot, shattering the illusion. Sienna met my gaze, and her perfect composure cracked. She clenched her jaw so tight I thought it might snap. Her pearls twisted violently in her fist. Her champagne glass fell in slow motion, splashing across her designer heels. Even the priest staggered back, clutching his robe like he'd seen a ghost. I walked down that aisle like it was mine to claim. All eyes clung to me, not in mourning, but in fear of reckoning. I didn't utter a sound. My presence said everything. I was the thunder that follows the lightning of betrayal. By the time I stood at the altar, the air was so tense it could snap. I turned, locked eyes with every stunned face, and smiled like justice had teeth. Let the funeral end, and the reckoning begin. I stood beneath the altar lights, directly under the portrait they chose to lie over my grave. The Leo frozen smile they used to convince the world I was gone. To erase me, frame by frame, I turned slowly, meeting every pair of eyes that looked at me as if death had double-crossed them. Let them tremble. Let them see what truth looks like when it refuses to stay buried. I stepped forward, let the silence stretch, then shattered it with my voice. They said I died, but here I am alive, and ready to burn the lie to the ground. The room tensed like a held breath, reality crashing down on every painted face. No one dared to move. They looked like statues in mourning, caught red-handed, phones hung mid-air, fingers frozen. Afraid pressing record might make it too real. No car crash, no ashes in an urn, no unrecognizable corpse, just lies stacked high and sealed in black lace. I pulled the folder like a weapon, thick, official, and lethal. Each page a bullet of truth. Every stamp, every signature, proof that while they planned my funeral, I was living. I wasn't dead. I was surviving the silence they wrapped me in. I didn't lose my life. I lost the people who pretended to love me. They forged my death like a forged apology, clean, quiet, and strategic. And once I was legally erased, they handed her everything. My money, my future, the pieces of me they didn't want to keep. Sienna's mouth opened, like a snake hissing, but I sliced through it with words sharper than her lies. Every floorboard squeaks with the sound of stolen blood. Sleep tight, Sienna. Behind me, the air cracked open, whispers like thunder in a storm of realization. A voice cut through the tension. She's got evidence, another person gasped, like they'd just witnessed resurrection. And then, finally, a phone rose, red light blinking. Truth was about to go viral. Good. Let the whole damn world see what this day really was. Not mourning. A con job in black silk. You didn't lose a daughter, I said, my voice cutting like glass. You discarded her like garbage, then held a funeral to justify it. And now here I am, breathing, standing, watching you squirm in your seat. You built a coffin of lies, and I brought the fire. I gave them one final look, the kind that stays in your nightmares. My father looked like he'd seen a ghost, and in a way, he had. My mother clutched her pearls like they could protect her from truth. Sienna, exposed, undone, her mask shattered in front of everyone. You staged my death to cleanse your guilt, but guilt doesn't die that easily. Now I return, not as your shame, but as your consequence. No more screaming, no more performance, just reckoning. Cold, unforgiving, I walked out as the church bells tolled, like justice ringing through stone, a funeral bell. Yes, but not for me. For the illusion they tried to build, I handed the truth to my lawyer, paper by paper, fact by fact. I signed my resurrection into law, watched them tear up the lie that was supposed to be my end. I was no longer a ghost in their records. I was alive again. The law came knocking, with subpoenas, audits, and questions they couldn't dodge. Let them try to smile now, with the spotlight turned cold and legal. Sometimes you must let them bury you to rise from the ashes stronger. I didn't come back to be welcomed. I came back to burn what they built from my bones.